hard cut. I'll figure this out. This is my first time having an entrance. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm happy that I have one. I'll say that. I'm going to thank Craig for that. Welcome to Gotham City tonight. Before we get rolling, I got a couple of guests with me tonight as well as we talk about the big slate that was dropped today, the chapter 1 of the DC universe. First, I want to bring in author for Marvel, for Ghostbusters, for Marvel Ghostbusters, and Star Wars. Like, he's pretty much worked on the big three. I want to bring in Flashpoint Troy. Everything but DC. That's right. I'm here to conquer another genre IP. Yes, why not? I also have another guest with me too, John Yurcaba, Part 4, cover artist for IDW, Beast Wars, Ninja Turtles, two of the biggest brands probably that publisher has. Dude, yeah. First off, congratulations on all that, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah. I was like waiting. There's got to be a time. There's got to be the perfect moment I can bring John in.
Isn't it like long-time chatter, first-time caller? It's weird because we're always in the chat with you, Doell.
That's true. Right, we're not foreign here.
That's true. You're not. But thank you both for being here. It was a big news day today, as probably all of you, anyone that's here probably knows. It was a very big news day. They did drop the slate. And it was big. It was actually, there was a lot more to it than I thought there was going to be. I honestly thought he was going to announce Superman, a couple things, and then that was kind of going to be it. What ended up happening was like close to a dozen things, like 5 movies, 5 TV shows, no gaming, which is okay because video games take a long time to make.
That's
those
true.
Things those things can take anywhere from 3 to 5 years. So it'll be a while, even though it feels like it's 5 years till we get our first movie.
But they made a point that it's all connected. The animation, the video games, it's all going to be the same people, the same universe, everything.
Same actors.
Yes.
All of that.
I'm
do it, Doug.
I love that so much.
I don't know how he pulled that off, but it was great. So should we talk about that first? Now, actually, should we watch the announcement?
Let's relive it. Let's do it now.
Let's see if I can get this thing going here.
I have this thing where when I watch something unto myself, like I'll have my own internal reactions where I'm like, "Oh, this is so cool!" But then when I show it to someone or watch it with someone, I get emotional because I'm like, "Do you understand now?" And
do you tense up and you're like, "I hope they like it," even though it's not your thing? Like
I showed it to my wife Michelle earlier, and I was like, "Look, it's gonna be so cool!" And then like they got through the first part of the announcement, and she looked back at me, and I was like, I told you it was cool.
Yeah. Actually, right before we start, I should do the right thing. Say hello to everyone who's watching. So, Derek Hoover, thank you for being here. Sam Hain 82. That's a good name. And I like your avatar as well. It's
There's 82
cool. Troy Benjamin is here, not only with us in person, but in the chat as well. Jeff Morris, Grumpy Fish, Shiny Plastic People, Toy Connections is here. Thanos Copter, Matt Bush, Jack Knight 73, Sam Rock, and a Troy. And what's funny is I think a Troy was comments disappear after a while. And I believe a Troy was the first one to throw down a comment in the chat 2 hours before we even started tonight. So thank you, a Troy, for being here tonight. And Gotham Stalker, friggin' Toy Anxiety made me miss the start. You missed the cool opening, but again, I will be on Gotham City again tomorrow night. I think we're going to open some superpowers and hang out. And this is where tomorrow night is where I'll really get down and dirty with the chat. And I want to hear what everyone has to say about tonight's show. And, as well as I want to hear everyone's thoughts and predictions for that one thing that he did not announce. So it'll be really, really cool. And BMM 1984, right? And it's true. I checked to make sure you weren't doing this in the morning. Yeah. Well, thank you. I have to work. I have a job. I have a job. So so should we just get right into it? Should we show the?
Let's do it.
Yeah, do it.
Oh, yeah, you know.
Yeah, I think Dole's the only one that can hear the audio. So let's just
Oh,
let him.
definitely is.
Let's let him enjoy this
Am I
moment
the
for a
only
second.
one? Oh, I don't know.
To be
Again,
fair,
don't
I
know
think
how-
I've watched it like 8 times today, so I'm like,
Yes.
oh, this is the part where he talks about Elseworlds.
Oh, here it's just
Yeah, we can
it's just so
summarize.
quiet. We're all just watching, but yeah, to summarize, I will just summarize. My apologies. I was like,
He
clearly,
says,
I
"Hi,
don't
I'm
hear this.
Slither's
I
It
James
looks
can-
like
Gunn,
it
and-
looks like the viewers might not be able to hear anything either.
Right? No, yeah, clearly, because they're just like, they're right. No audio. Sorry, I hear it, so I just assume you all can too. It's so my apologies. So we'll break it down. So he does kick it off by saying how disjointed the DC universe has been between movies and TV, and it's just all over the place.
He says it a
So,
lot
I mean-
nicer there than he did at the press event, which everybody
Yeah.
ran with. That was the other crazy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That was
think
the
he-
measured response there. Yeah.
Right. So it's what was really cool was that he acknowledged it. We've all seen it. Unless you're like hardcore like Snyder cultist, you see it. We all see it. And as much as we do love, like the Superman show, Superman and Lois, all that stuff. It is all over the place. It's been all over the place, even with their movies. He acknowledges that right off the bat. Oh, go ahead.
Even within like the Arrowverse, like spoilers, I guess, for anyone who hasn't watched it, but like they introduced Superman in Supergirl. They had Crisis on Infinite Earths. Superman got his own show, went for a whole season with everybody believing, yeah, it's still the same universe. And then the second season, they were like, oh yeah, Superman's the only superhero ever. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, it was all over the board. So now his job seems to be, or I guess is, to make sure everything is consistent.
Yeah.
So everything lines up, nothing is disjointed. And from there, he kind of just goes on and starts listing off, what he plans to do. And I guess we might as well just start listing it because there was a lot. So the first thing he kind of announces that this is the DC Universe Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, is what it's going to be called.
Yeah.
Which is a very DC thing, like when you really think about it. Like
100%.
That's pretty sweet.
Mhm.
And one of the movies, I don't know what he said was first. So I've got them listed here by movies, then an animated show, and then TV shows.
I got you
I
in
think,
chronological order for you. I can help
okay,
you.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So
help me out, Troy.
So first up is going to be the Creature Commandos animated series. They're already working on it right now. Even though they said they haven't cast anyone, they don't have any of the voice actors, or they don't want to talk about any of the creative teams on these, but they're already working on it. And that's going to be first out of the gate. Well, the 4 other DCEU movies will be the first ones out of the gate.
Yeah.
And then this Creature Commandos show. Yeah.
Right. And he did also say that the Flash movie will lead into all of this.
Yeah.
So I guess that's his way of saying, go see the movie.
Yeah. It sounds like it's a pretty, like, we know it's going to be doing a riff at least on the Flashpoint storyline. So it makes sense that that'll be the thing that resets it all, like he said.
Right. So that's exactly it. So I guess we're starting off with that. He mentioned, did he mention Aquaman too?
He did. He
so-
kind of gave like how everything rolls into each other.
Right. And then into Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
And then we start getting into the goods, which is right. Also, he talks about Elseworlds as well. which I found to be really, really awesome. So
is perfect. That's the perfect way for them to do it, because I was so worried about like the Batman 2 and Todd Phillips's Joker 2 and like the things that we already know they're working on. How is this going to tie into their new vision?
Yeah.
And it doesn't, but they found a way to stamp it so that you know that it doesn't. This is completely on its own two legs, which is cool.
Which is
and I like
great.
that it gives clarity, because that's something that I think even today, like you still run into people who are like, okay, so wait, how so the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, he's going to be the one that fights the Robert Pattinson Batman, and then that's when, and it like I love that they're like, no, listen, there's these movies and then there's these movies. It's two separate things.
Yeah, like Teen Titans Go is not going anywhere.
Yeah,
that's like, I love that got a name drop. That made me really happy that that's still going. Oh my gosh, sex bots.
But they also made a point that like the Elseworld stuff has to be, it has to raise the bar. They're not just going to do Elseworld stuff to like appease whoever. Like it has to be something captivating and thought provoking with a great creative team. And I think it like for as measured as James Gunn was in that filmed intro, and then how he kind of like didn't mince words about the previous regime for everything else, they were really like, they puffed up all of the stuff that was already in the pipeline. They really made, you know, I think they said that the Flash was it James Gunn or was it no, I think it was James Gunn who said it's like it's the best superhero movie he's ever seen.
So they're making it really like, hey, don't tune these out just because we're starting something new. It's like, this is all worth watching, and it all potentially matters more than you might think it does.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's a really cool way to do it. And I, again, too, with the Elseworlds and knowing, we also got a release date for the Batman 2, which was October 3rd, 2025. Oh my gosh. So far away. So far away. Everything starts so far away, folks.
Is it though? It's like 2 years away. Like I bet the production team is like, wait, we're coming out when? The script's not done.
Mid-40s. It's now like I'm at this point of like, I need to survive.
I feel like I've been measuring,
check my cholesterol, make sure I make it to 2025, right? Like
I feel like I've been measuring my life in release dates pretty much since Nick Fury showed up at the end of Iron Man. So
it's kind of true, right?
What I feel like I've been measuring release dates since Batman Returns, when the first movie came out in 1989, and I was doing the math like, okay, there's going to be a sequel. It's going to come out like in 1991, 1992.
I was going to say, at least for the three of us, we've at least all been measuring in release dates since '89 for one reason or another. So
that's totally yes, right? Like whether it's been for Ghostbusters sequels or Batman.
That
sequels.
Can was kicked pretty far. Yeah. That was a tough one to measure. Yeah.
Right. But it's again for all of you that are coming in from Toy Anxiety, we all know what it's like to wait when we have to do a pre-order for something that doesn't come out until March of next year. Right. So I mean, like we should all kind of be used to hurry up and wait a little bit, right? Which is why, like, and again too, like he didn't have to really do this early for any of us, but he did, and it got me really exciting. So I think what was the first thing that he announced, Troy?
It was Creature Commandos. Yeah, I think
Commandos was number one, and and to be clear as well, those voice actors are also going to be the live action actors,
right?
So we are going to get Creature Commandos showing up in live action, as from what it sounded like as well.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of all of this, is you're going to be getting those characters crossing over through the shared universe. That it's going to be awesome. Whatever they're setting up there, that they'll then be setting up in Waller, which is the next thing, which obviously will tie to Peacemaker and Suicide Squad, which is also like they made a point of saying like, we did Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, and even the stuff that we did is not 100% canon. Like we're kind of cherry picking things from that into our world. But obviously Amanda Waller will be one of those. Yeah.
Right. Like that still kind of left the door open for Gal Gadot to return into the Amazon show.
They said they're talking to her. They made a point of saying that, you know, Jason Momoa, he won't be our Lobo, but he can still be our Aquaman. You know, they kind of like put that fine of a point on it. Yeah.
I do want him to be Lobo though.
Thunderhouse had a good point here in the comments that if you look at that shot of the Creature Commandos, Weasel is one of them from the Suicide Squad.
Oh, right here. Thunderhouse Design. The Variety article confirmed that it's Weasel on the Creature Commandos image, and the human guy with the beard was Rick Flag Sr.
Yeah.
Right? So it probably means Amanda Waller will show up in that show as well,
Yeah.
I would assume. Right? And speaking of Amanda Waller, she's getting her own show too, which to me is also very interesting. And I'm down for it. I mean, if it's going to be an HBO Max series as well, like, I don't know. A rated R Amanda Waller to me makes sense only because she seems like the type to swear.
And they didn't specify with this one, like with Creature Commandos, they said it was a 7-episode thing. Like it's going to be a very short run. But Waller and the upcoming Lanterns, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a second, they didn't put a start and an end on it. So it could be something that could continue running and could continue having through lines through the films as they come out, which would be a lot of fun to see too.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that. So it was Amanda Waller. What was next after that?
The big one. Superman
Legacy.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. See, and we're all smiling. We are all like, I don't know about you, Troy. Are you a big Superman fan?
I'm a bigger Batman fan than Superman. However, this version of Superman, I'm assuming that we're talking about the Birthright Superman based on everything that they've said, like that kind of Mark Waid.
It seems like it seems like Birthright maybe mixed in with some All-Star.
Yeah, with a little All-Star. Yeah.
There was there's a through line through a lot of the projects, and definitely if you look at some of the tweets that Gunn has shared, just not particularly about this, but just what's been on his mind. He's been reading a lot of Grant Morrison everything, and so the fact that they used the All-Star cover for the teaser image for this movie, he's definitely putting out a vibe of like it's gonna feel like this probably, even if it's not.
And for the Batman project.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's to me it was very exciting just because you're right, because of the imagery he used, kind of the names he's been dropping. I know he's been saying up and away a couple times, which was the series written by Tom King, which is amazing, and we'll get into Tom King also down the road. For anyone who doesn't know or is new, Tom King is one of my favorite writers. He probably wrote the best Batman I have ever read. Something that I don't usually connect to Batman. I usually connect more to Dick Grayson, Tim Drake. I'm that guy. I like the Robins. I connect with them. However, he wrote a Batman where I was like, I could relate to this. I understand this. The good or the bad, and it was a really kind of like hard self-reflection sometimes too. Yeah, where I had to be like, maybe it's time to talk to my therapist today. That kind of thing. So it was like, So to know that Tom, you could see there's definitely going to be Tom King fingerprints in all of this.
Well, I was going to say, how'd you feel when you heard that James Gunn said that he's been whispering in his ear even before he got the job at DC Studios? Because that to me, as soon as he started talking about the Tom Kings, the Grant Morrisons, knowing that Drew Goddard is in the room with him, I was like, yes. They're embracing the source material. They're embracing this is it.
And
this is it.
Ryan, I know Ryan and I have talked about this multiple times, just how much so many things at DC feel like they have been made by people who read like the one or two like most well-known stories from that character and then kind of ran with it. And it's usually like Dark Knight Returns, Batman Year One, and maybe like one or two other things.
Yeah, that is the name they didn't mention.
Frank Miller. Yeah.
Frank Miller.
Frank Miller's been, anytime someone's making a Batman movie, they always drop Frank Miller's name as their go-to, as like, the fans will love this because we said Frank Miller. And this time they didn't. You didn't hear his name at all, and you heard a bunch of other names, except his. I'm not throwing shade at Frank Miller, by the way. He has reshaped Batman to a lot of what we recognize, even more modern comics and movies. So, we do owe him. I have huge respect for him.
like the Frank Miller stuff always stood on its own because Frank Miller is Frank Miller and he writes things that way and he kind of creates his own little islands. And when the filmmakers go toward Frank Miller, they get stuck in that same place. They're not looking at the Denny O'Neills and the Paul Dini's and the people that create these long through lines that they last throughout an entire run of Detective Comics or something like that. So like, and we all love Frank Miller. We love Dark Knight Returns, like that dark brooding, using a tank to blow people up, Batman. Still,
fighting mutants in the mud.
Yeah, there's definitely a reason that we remember those books for sure.
Yes,
but also
and year one to
there's
me
other
stands
things
out too, right? Like there's a lot there, and it's again like super exciting to see all that and how much he's just like soaking it all in. And again too, it shows me that he was already a fan of this stuff before he even, you know, he jumped in. He understood. I'm trying to think what was next after Superman.
So let's see. After Superman
that was
came,
Lanterns, wasn't it?
Yeah, that comes the Lantern show, which is going to be totally different than the Berlanti show that was already kind of in development, which was going to be like a space opera, planet hopping thing. This is going to be more. It's in the vein of True Detective, which okay.
I was kind of like, so are we going to do like, are we going to make shirts that have like a thin green line? Or are we gonna do...
There was when this got announced earlier, Craig from Toy Anxiety fame, he was like, both Green Lanterns in a True Detective style HBO series sounds like John's fan fiction went tree. And he's not wrong. And I can kind of see it too, because like this is something that when he started describing this, and he made a point to point out that this is where you're going to see, first of all, it's Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, which I'm super pumped about, that we're finally getting a live action Jon Stewart, and he's going to be a co-lead of this series. But when he honed in on how it's terrestrial based and it is going to involve those two uncovering a terrifying secret that feeds into the rest of like the overall story of the DCU, that's when my brain started going like, oh, okay, all right. Now I'm starting to put things on my like solve the mystery pin board at this point. And I love that idea of like, if we're jumping in and it's got both Hal and John, assuming that this is also a universe where Hal was first and then John came along later, it kind of is that True Detective dynamic where you've got someone who's been on the job a little longer and is a little more jaded, and then you've got the person who's a little newer to it and still has that sort of like, I want to do it right and I want to solve this mystery. And then they both find something just so horrifying that it shakes them both up.
Right. Yeah, I would, dude, I am absolutely with you on that. I'm also at the same time here trying to find images. I've got Craig asking me to share images. I've had no time to prep for this.
The Green Lantern one specifically, where I think from Green Lantern Earth 1, which to me, again, like Gunn picked these images on purpose because he wanted to communicate a tone. You can Google 80 million images of 80 different versions of Hal and John that are all maybe even more iconic, that people are like, oh, I know what that one's from. But he picked those two for a reason. And it's because he wanted you to feel that like, here's two like space cops who you immediately feel a little more related to, and they're gonna be looking into some weird stuff, and I thought that was really cool,
and that they've embraced that Green Lanterns can be space cops. Like we don't have to go above and beyond. That's what they are. They're just peacekeepers. Yeah,
exactly.
There we go. What I love about, well, I'll be honest, like even Craig called me this morning, Craig Goldberg of the infamous Toy Anxiety, and yes, have some. He when he called today, he's like, "What are your last minute predictions?" And I said there was going to be a Green Lantern something. However, I expected it to be a movie only because of the budget.
Okay,
and I thought,
makes sense.
I could see that.
Right. So to find out it was getting a show, I was like, "Oh, well." Again, too, like sometimes you have to be more creative with your storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Would you have a smaller budget? Because like when I think of things like that, with like when shows have smaller budgets, all I think of is Beast Boy only being able to turn into a green tiger.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's
But also,
There's
you bring up a good point, Ryan. Like this all seems to me like it's just Warner Brothers Discovery was like, you've got a blank check, do whatever the hell
Yeah.
you want,
right.
which is
And
also
that was-
surprising considering everything that's going on over there.
It's as much as it sucks to kind of look back at some of the stuff, and it by no means am I saying like, well, it's okay that you did that, but like I think you kind of start to see a method to the madness when you hear how much Safran and Gunn talk about like, yeah, like we have their full support, they're letting us do what we think is right, and then you go back to one of the first things people started hearing Zaslav say when he got hired was, I want an MCU style 10-year plan. That is one of my number one priorities for DC. And so it makes sense that at this point, now they've got the plan and he's like, whatever you need, just you got it.
As long as I get my Superman movie, I'm fine. Like
Exactly.
Yeah. No, and that's, to me, that's all good. And I'm cool with them going with the younger Superman. It hurts to lose Cavill. Because he loved the character and he's very stunning to look at. And he comes off like such a nice, genuine dude too, that it hurt to lose him. But
I'm bummed to be losing a lot of those people because it was like the casting was spot on. I know a lot of people are heartbroken about Affleck still not really getting his chance to be that Bruce Wayne Batman that he could have been. But
he's also directing something, we don't know what.
Yeah.
However, if it's Ben Affleck directing this,
okay,
Space Cops, I think.
That
Very
feels like an
Gunn-y.
Affleck project.
Yeah.
I'm gonna think about that now. I like that.
Yeah, like I could see him totally doing it, but also he's a feature. Well, who knows? Who knows what they
he could do
offer
the
him?
pilot. Like he could be the Frank Darabont type person who does the first one and sets the stage, or the Martin Scorsese or whatever.
Right.
And then everybody continues. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is actually one of the ones that really kind of piqued my interest as well, because there's so much you can do with Green Lanterns. They did say they were going to see other Green Lanterns, so I'm going to assume we're going to see the core. Yeah. Maybe not necessarily Kyle and Guy.
I could see him making a little pit stop at Oa at some point during the series.
Yeah,
and
they may have to return to Oa for something. Yeah.
I would love that. I would love to see the Guardians and all that as well. Like, and again too, if they got the blank check to just make money, again too, the one thing with DC I find outside of Spider-Man and maybe like Captain America and I think DC across the board, like, because they're all symbols, right? Like we can all wear the symbols and know who everything is. Yeah. So, you could just do Green Lantern merch. If this show's a hit,
that's true.
Like they'll be swimming in merchandise money. And I think that's something Warner Brothers wants as well.
I think that's 100% high on their minds. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it has me excited too. I kind of like I think 2025 is going to be such a big year. Like I'm so excited just to even see that. Are we ready to move on to the next one?
To my biggest surprise of the announcements, this one right here.
Same here. To me, this one was like out of left field.
It was unexpected, but at the same time, like it feels like such a Gunn thing to do. And I know nothing about this story, this group of people. So like,
by the way, this is the Authority.
It immediately made me think like, like I just went to the comic shop like 3 days ago. I'm like, I gotta go to the comic shop like right now.
Yeah, I gotta reread Wildstorm is what this made me think. I was like, oh my God, I haven't thought about this in 20, 30 years.
Yeah, right. But it was like, I think after New 52, DC did a soft relaunch called DCU, as in like you. And Midnighter was one of the big pushes for his own solo title. Midnighter is the gentleman right in the center there. But this will cover a lot of bases in a lot of ways. I don't know how they're going to bring in Hawkman and Hawkgirl in after this, but that's a James Gunn problem. That's not my problem.
Well, and they also were very clear about they're embracing the multiverse too. Mm-hmm. So like there's a possibility we've got people that are jumping through space-time portals or whatever to get from their Earth to this Earth.
Right.
So yeah, that could be part of it also.
yeah, that's to me. This is like I'm so again too. Like, how funny would it be if they hired Affleck to be the Midnighter? Like,
Oh my
Oh, man.
gosh.
like,
That would
or
be
if they
amazing.
got Henry Cavill to play Apollo. You know what I mean? Like, it would
Yeah.
just be like they could do all of this. They could just bring back like everyone from the Snyderverse and put them into the Authority. I think
Yeah.
it would be
That would be pretty funny, especially because, like Gunn said, this is a group of heroes that believe the world is broken and they're going to fix it at all costs. Which, if they were to repurpose a lot of the Snyderverse actors for that, would be pretty funny.
It would be, right? There we go. I think Troy kind of nailed it there too, right? Like, why not just give it to us? Like, that's a Affleck as Midnighter,
Oh God.
Matt Damon as Apollo. Like, why
Oh,
not?
so
Like,
good.
just because that's its own fan service in its own way. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I mean, if done right, it'll go. I again, I have full trust in Gunn to
Yeah.
make this work. And
I
be
feel
enjoyable.
this is the Guardians of the Galaxy pick out of the bunch, where it's like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you're gonna suddenly make everybody care about these characters who didn't even know their names before they saw this film. I think that's
Exactly.
kind of where this is going to be going.
Yeah, that I can't wait for it. And again, this is one of those ones like I want to be at that San Diego Comic-Con where they announce this. But I
Yeah.
did make a tweet today saying I think now DC Fandom should make a comeback,
Yes.
but as an actual convention.
That would be cool.
Interesting.
And they should hold it in Burbank, and they should hold it at the Warner Brothers studio.
I mean, why wasn't this like a bigger thing? That was the other thing that I kind of wondered, like, why was this not like a big fandom thing, or like, why didn't they wait until July? Because none of this is really pressing for time. They could have drug it out until then.
I think they probably just knew that they were sitting on a powder keg, in the sense of like, if things start leaking in terms of who we're still using as actors, what is still, canon and all that kind of stuff, and what we might be working on, I'm sure they probably thought like, look, if we don't do this now and do it before those other, remaining projects that they weren't a part of start coming to fruition, they're not going to be able to get everyone to buy into those projects as much as they might be able to. And they might not, yeah, like
those four movies still have to do well. Like, everything is contingent. Like, if those four movies all bomb, somebody in the shareholders or the boardroom is going to be like, you can't do all these DC things. They don't make any money.
It would have been cool if they had enough time to like hype up, like, hey, we're going to kick the year off with like a full fandom style event. But I think it probably, I mean, even just from like, we thought Cavill was coming back in Black Adam, and then a month later it's like, hey, nope, not really. And then, it was, everything just happened so fast. They were like, well, if we know, we should probably just tell everybody.
I wonder, like, did they see this as, remember, like when Marvel announced that they were going to be doing an Iron Man and an Incredible Hulk movie, and like, it was in a small, it wasn't Hall H, it wasn't like the big to do at Comic-Con. Like, it was Favreau and Kevin Feige, and I want to say, I can't even remember who was still in. I think maybe it was just the two of them, but it was a very small thing, and they were like, these are our plans, everything's going to connect, eventually it may lead to something like an Avengers movie. So I wonder if this is kind of what they're trying to do here too, where it's like, this is small, this is intimate, this is just for the fans, these are our plans. We're going to be doing an Authority movie and a Lantern's True Detective show for John Yurcaba specifically.
Directed by Ben Affleck.
And they know that Yurcaba's there, like, for me? Like, what?
But I think you're right, though. I think there's something that they want a little smaller. I do also agree with John. I think pressed for time, because it just seemed like every day was like, James Gunn's making the news because he's telling another fan to like, shut up, that's not true.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So there was like, how long can he keep doing that for? Right. So it made sense for him to just do it end of the month, get it out of the way. Right. But now he's going to be dealing with like, again, too, I think was even before this dropped and people were already like, oh, so-and-so was in talks to play Superman. I'm going to tell you this right now. As someone who has thrown in Easter eggs in Batman versus Superman, and the next day they're talking about casting rumors, the internet is full of crap. So unless it's coming straight from the source, right, don't believe it. Like, just let rumors be rumors. And it's really kind of bugs me too, where it's just like you've got IGN reporting these rumors on slow news days because they just want the clicks or the conversation or whatever. And I mean, we're just as bad for it too on Toy Anxiety and on here, where it's like, hey, this is what people are kind of talking about. What do you all think? Right? We all do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's full of crap. Let's go.
Death, taxes, the internet is full of crap. That's you got it.
that is it. Let's go to the next one. This one is one that got me pretty excited too. Paradise Lost. We compared it to Game of Thrones on Paradise Island. Which to me, obviously, I'm hoping we get like the gods.
You have to. Like, how do you do Themyscira without like, and especially if this is pre-Diana being born, I mean, they really, I get that they want to do their Game of Thrones with political intrigue, and we're setting up the royal bloodline here for Diana's birth. Yeah, but it's they're. I
mean, look at the image they used. There's blood and swords and
there's men. There's men on the island. Like, I love that this something that I thought was cool. And I on one hand, I understand it because like we're about to get a Flash movie and an Aquaman movie and a bunch of other stuff. So it's like, of course, this first chapter is not going to then give us another Flash movie and another Aquaman. But I love that even with Wonder Woman, before we just, drop her back in and give her like, here's Wonder Woman in, chapter 1, they're giving us this, and they're letting us sit with like, here's what Themyscira is like, here's what that society is like, here's what all of this, like when we meet Diana again, whether it's Gal Gadot, whether she's playing a similar version, like the character that appears to us as Wonder Woman will be even more informed about her because of what we see in this. And that'll tell us like, oh, well, we know she grew up like this because this is what we saw in this show. Like there's little world building and storytelling opportunities that you can tell they're taking advantage of. It just made me so excited.
Can I throw out my crazy fan speculation for this show?
Absolutely. And let's get it trending on Twitter, folks.
Let's do it. Oh, this is the internet is full of crap right here. Like you heard it right now.
Hashtag Troy said.
They said they specifically called out Gal Gadot coming back, right? Yeah. Or that she's interested. And this show seems to me like a young Indiana Jones kind of thing where you have an older Wonder Woman / Diana sitting down telling the younger generation about all of the stuff that happened at Themyscira prior to her. So I feel like she kind of appears here as like the older Diana who is like wizened or wizened. Why did I say wizened? That's weird. But she's the wiser Diana. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Who's now kind of like passing on the tales and the songs that she's heard.
Okay.
And what that does.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say what that does is that sets up that she can be the older Diana, and they can then have another Diana that is operating in the present day who doesn't necessarily have to be her anymore, but she can be that sort of narrator, storyteller character that is the through line. That's just what I see. I see that she, and that's an easy shoot for her.
If we get an older Diana and she's telling the story, I don't want her to be on Themyscira. I want her to be telling it from
to
Planet Krypton. Nope.
Oh, okay.
Planet Krypton from the end of Kingdom Come, where it's just the planet Hollywood for DC superheroes in the future.
Oh, God, that would be funny. And it's Linda Carter. It's not Gal Gadot.
Oh my God.
Linda Carter. Yeah.
That would be so funny too, because I could totally imagine like the Wonder Woman is just like sitting in a corner booth having a cheeseburger, and people are walking by getting photos with like the waitresses. They're just dressed up like Wonder Woman and everything. And then like someone sits down next to her and is just like, sorry, there's no other seats. And she's like, oh, you're fine. And then it just turns into like her telling this story.
Right. I would totally be down. But I like your idea, Troy. I like that. There's like you said, they've left so many doors open with so many announcements. It's
Yeah.
It's been so wild.
I like the idea too, because going back to before Diana was born, like because the lanterns thing about them uncovering the mystery kind of got my brain juices flowing. The idea of like, okay, well, what if Hal and John find it, and then in Paradise Lost, we see that is something that like factored into whatever struggles and tension is happening in that show, and we start to see like, oh, this is how whatever it is like, this is what ties everything together.
Yeah, I am absolutely down. Yeah.
It's the mother box. And no, wait, that's the other thing. No.
We don't need that. But I mean, again, too, like it's just such a great way to introduce all these like Ares. Like, let's bring them in properly. Let's bring in Zeus. Right? Like there's so much you can do. I love this. And this one to me, this is the next announcement was the big one. This one to me, well, I shouldn't say the big one. I would say Superman was the big one. But this one is also a very important one because you need a Batman, regardless of what universe they're in, which is why I think they clarified the Elseworlds thing right off the bat, pun intended, and that way they could announce this one, Batman Brave and the Bold. This is where we get our Grant Morrison, Tom King vibes here. Again, they're using the Frank Quietly artwork. We're getting a Batman and Robin in film for the first time in like over 30 years.
Not just that. We're getting the Bat family. There was in one of the articles, they clarified that it's going to be focused on Bruce and Damian in this like awkward father and son thing, but it's a Bruce that is, he's far enough into being Batman that he has Damian, and that also means that the rest of the Bat family is there and they're going to be popping up. And so like the fact that we went from nothing for so long to like, you know what, here's everybody, like literally up to the most current lineup, maybe.
Right. Now, okay, I got a question for both of you as well. And John, since you brought this up, I'm going to start with you. They're bringing in a younger Superman. If we got a Batman that's already has a Nightwing, possibly a Red Hood, possibly
I think it's Red Hood. Yeah.
Right? And Damian, we're probably going to be dealing with an older Batman. How do you feel about the it is a maybe. You're right. It is a big maybe. But what? Because
in my head,
the possible age gap.
In my head, I think it's okay because I feel like there's always been kind of a more youthful energy to Superman anyway, even though they're typically portrayed as right around the same age. But I think this will just kind of hammer it home more. And even then, that age difference, I'm imagining we're going to get a Superman who's maybe mid-20s, probably mid to late 20s. And if Batman, let's say, he left home and started traveling the world and training when he was in his late teens and came back and became Batman. Let's go with year one, where I think he's 20, 25 or something like that. And then let's say they also mentioned that Bruce has been out of Damian's life for like 8 to 10 years, which is also cool because it means like Damian's literally going to be a kid when we meet him. And so if we go tween.
Tween was the word that was used by Gunn.
So if we go from, let's say he becomes Batman at 25 and then fast forward another, he's going to be probably, I'm guessing it'll be like mid 30s. So he's not going to be too old. We're not even talking about like Batfleck age range anymore. This is like prime peak Batman.
Yeah. Right. Correct. And again, too, I think I'm just excited about the idea that we might see a theatrical Nightwing and Jason and Tim.
Which again, even if it's not in Barbara. Chapter 1, you're planting the seeds to like, oh, if Nightwing's here, maybe sooner rather than later, we'll get to like a Titans show or movie or something, or we'll get to, all that kind of stuff.
I would want a Barbara show. I would like them to give it Birds of Prey another shot.
That would be cool.
Right? Like the Bat family is so vast. Like, again, too, like this could introduce Signal at some point. And again, like all these characters, you introduce the Bat family again, this is all TVs and movies and animation.
Yeah.
All the
We
same
could get a
actors
We
and
Are
stuff,
Robin
too.
TV show.
Could get so much from just this.
Yeah.
Which to me is absolutely insane. I'm going to read what was said by Gunn, that was in the Hollywood Reporter. The Brave and the Bold. This is the introduction to the DCU Batman of Bruce Wayne, and also introduces our favorite Robin, Damian Wayne, who is a little son of a bitch. The movie will take inspiration from the now classic Batman run written by Grant Morrison that introduced Batman to his son he never knew existed. A murderous tween raised by assassins. It's a very strange father and son story. And I think this is also a great way to freshen up Batman and to make him completely different than what we're getting from Pattinson.
Yeah, 100%. Because it's two different eras at that point. Because you've got a Batman who's just finding his feet at that line between vigilante and hero. And then you've got this Batman who, I'm assuming, like, when we meet him, he's going to be like, I've got this hero thing figured out. I got a whole Bat family. We got Gotham locked down. This is our business. And then Damian shows up and it's like, okay, that's
and
new.
I wonder if he's going to do the whole, like, you know, I'm the true son of the Batman, like trying to kill Dick Grayson, trying to kill, like,
man. If you guys want a taste of what that, like, how fun that can be, if you're not going to read a comic, hop on HBO Max, watch
Son of Batman.
Son of Batman.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good.
It's a ton of fun.
Yeah. Troy, what are your thoughts on getting all this?
I mean, this was the one that really hooked me up, because above all else, this really showed me that they're focused on the source material. Like, they are leaning into the stories that have been told in the comics, and they're going to use that as their imprint for what's going to branch things off. And like you said, the fact that it's called The Brave and the Bold and not Son of Batman or Batman and Son or something, like John was saying, like, this is going to introduce so many damn characters that our heads are going to spin, because everybody's going to be coming together for this. Like, I almost wonder if, again, fan speculation here, instead of this being called Batman : something, they called it The Brave and the Bold because this is Civil War to them. Like, they're kind of jumping ahead here, and they're going to start putting those posts in that show you where things are going to be branching off to.
Yeah.
And Brave and the Bold is a team-up book.
Yeah.
Right?
With
like, even the cartoon that came out.
The night before,
Green Arrow and Black Canary were a big part of that.
The night before, or yesterday night, I guess, I told Ryan, I was like, hey, what are we going to toast with when we wake up tomorrow and see all these cool things? And I jokingly mentioned, I was like, I bet we get a movie called Cape Crusaders, and they just, like, come out the gate and be like, here's Batman and Robin. And then I tweeted that, like, if you wanted me to say, like, what would I want? I also said it would be cool if they gave us a movie called The Brave and the Bold, but my guess was like, oh, that'll be where it's like Green Lantern and Flash or something. So, like, the name and the, like, seeing all of that actually come together, I was like, yep, this is good. I'm in.
This is good. Yeah. Yeah, it is exciting. And it has me, like, again, casting be damned. I'll be totally down if they do a bunch of people we've never heard of.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we should. So our good friends at Toy Anxiety wanted us to do some fan casting here. Do we have any predictions on our 30-year-old? Yeah, see, there it is. It's in the lower third.
Batman.
Hey, Craig, to do it.
Craig and Abby, I sent Abby the link. If you guys want to dive in, you are more than welcome to. But yeah, let's fan casting. I'm trying. Does anyone watch Euphoria? Do you guys watch Euphoria?
No,
no.
I have kids. I don't want to hate my life, man. I don't even have kids,
and those kids scare me. Like, the me that was that age is scared of those kids.
I'll always reference Euphoria. I love it. I would the guy that plays Nate, he's kind of the villain of that show. He is a real awful piece of shit. But I would love for him to play Batman. If he's going to play, if we're getting a younger Batman, but if he's not going to play Batman, because he does look like he looks like I know he plays a teenager in this show, but he definitely looks like he's in his, like, young 20s. But he's also a very good looking dude. So let's get him
this
as
movie
Dick
doesn't
Grayson.
come out for another 4 or 5 years. He's got time to
That's
kind
true,
of
too.
grow into that age.
That's true. But I mean, if he still has that, like, he still has that pretty boy baby face kind of look to him, and he's still handsome and in good shape, put him in as Dick Grayson.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
See,
absolutely.
I feel like I want them to Daisy Ridley this in the sense that I want them to do a worldwide casting call.
Yeah.
And I want them to cast somebody who I have no idea who they are. And they become Batman.
If Daisy Ridley can do an American accent, get her in as
I mean, if Daisy Ridley could do Batman, I'm not opposed to that. I think that would be a fun. That's the thing that's going to be taken out of context.
I do agree with you, Troy. Like, I would be more than happy. Like, Marvel came out the gate, and obviously they had like Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man and some recognizable faces. But I love that the deeper we got into it, the people that they were hiring for like the lead roles might have had one or two things where you're like, oh, he's from that one show. But the iconic actors, it's like, Glenn Close popping up in Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's like, oh, if you're gonna do stunt casting, like use it in a like that was fun kind of way. I would love it if it was a similar approach to this, where like these lead characters are just like, you don't know them from anywhere except for maybe that one thing that one time. But this is where they show up and say like, hey, you're going to remember me because I was Batman and I was really good at it.
Yeah.
Let's get Chris Pratt in as Batman. He wasn't afraid to bring in people from Marvel. So let's
be honest. There is something coming up later on that has him written all over it, but I feel like it would be too obvious almost.
Right.
Oh, Chalamet as Dick Grayson. That's interesting. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Is that who you were talking about? Was Timothy Chalamet? I haven't watched Euphoria, so that kind of thing. He's busy with all those Dune movies, though.
Yeah.
Brandon Sklett. I don't know. I don't even know who this is. Craig.
I'll
help me out
real quick.
Yeah. The guy who played Ronan would be a good 30-something Batman.
Oh, I think he might be older than 30, but I can see it. I believe that he's in
1923. Chris Pratt was going to just play all the characters.
It's a me, Mario. I
looked up that dude. I don't know if he gives me Batman.
Lee Pace, Lee Pace, Ray. Yeah, okay. Lee Pace is a little too old though. Like,
yeah. But he has that kind of like still a pretty boy, but just a little older. If we can go like 5 years, 10 years younger than that, but a similar vibe, I think we'll be onto something.
Right. It's kind of funny. Like when someone kind of tells me like who'd make a good Jason Todd, I keep just going to like John Hughes films from the 80s. And I keep thinking of all like the bullies that would make such a good Jason Todd. But it's like, I can't think of anyone like, current. That's the problem too. Where's Batista gonna fit? He's got to play Bane.
So he came out and I think he said he didn't want to play Bane anymore, but someone asked him about Lex and he was like, I'd be into that.
Interesting.
Okay, Lex would be kind of cool, but because Lex is buff. Do not forget that.
It would be cool to finally get a Lex, almost like Kingpin, where it's like if he's in the right kind of suit, he just looks like, a bald dude. But then you see him like working out and you're like, oh, okay.
I also had Clayface in mind.
Oh, that would be good too, because then he'd really get to like both chew the scenery, but also like lean into like, I'm an actor.
Yes.
What if this is totally crazy because James Gunn was talking all Gorilla Grodd on us on Twitter and whatever for the longest time. What if they do a mocap thing with Batista and he becomes Gorilla Grodd?
He would be
throwing that out there.
Perfect for it. He really would be.
What if he played Professor Pig?
Oh, jeez.
I know you're saying that because Lexi isn't here, but I'm here for it.
Yeah, Lexi's here. I can safely say
the vision.
I gotta
tease Professor Pig as well.
I got a text here and I kind of like it. Jeremy Irvine, who you have to look up because you probably don't know him. who is the
sounds
lead
super familiar.
the lead person in Warhorse, who is the only person in Warhorse who has not been in a superhero movie, because you had Tom Hiddleston, Benedict Cumberbatch, oh my God, Toby Kebbell. Look him up. I could see it.
For Batman?
Thank you. You know who you are for Batman. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how old he is. Let me look him up. Hold on. He's 32.
Like
he's 32 years old.
Oh yeah, then yes,
there you
absolutely.
There's something.
Thunderhouse Design, Pratt for Booster. That's it. No question.
That's what I was hinting at. That's what I was hinting at. Pratt for Booster.
We'll get to Booster in a hot minute. Don't worry about that.
Listen, I see you talking about Aubrey Plaza as Lois Lane, and I'm gonna let you finish, but Jessica Henwick will be the best Lois Lane of all time.
Yeah. Do you know who I would see Aubrey Plaza play? Livewire.
Oh,
Livewire.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Because she's got that sarcastic, just get out of my face, I do not like you tone. She's got it nailed.
Definitely.
Right? Because she's got to be that borderline of shock jock and the little bit of punk.
She would really be perfect for that, for sure.
I think she would be fantastic. I know Craig right now is probably Googling Livewire. Which is totally fine.
We need to find him a Superman comic where she shows up in the first 5 pages. So if we send it to him, we know he'll actually get to that part.
Right. Well, she's in the animated series for Superman, so it'll be really easy. You'll be able to YouTube her, right? Highly articulated. I want Eddie Redmayne in there somewhere.
Yeah, where would Eddie Redmayne?
I don't want him to do the Riddler again so soon, but he'd be a good Riddler.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? Just keep him in the Reeves verse.
Yeah.
You know, I'm down for that. I'm okay with that. Troy Batista as Swamp Thing. I would.
Oh, dude. I mean, come on, talk about the things when you knew that James Gunn was going to be announcing a slate of things Swamp Thing. I knew was going to be on there. Like you knew that Swamp Thing was going to be on there.
I had no idea, and I
loves Chroma movies, and like I was like, Swamp Thing is going to be in every phase of this.
Oh my gosh, you're right. There he is.
Booster. There he is.
There's Booster, the guy that got kind of thrown into being a Canadian when they created Justice League International.
Oh yeah, that's true.
There was
Canadian by proxy.
But Canadian by proxy. What was funny was they introduced Justice League International. This was near the end of New 52, and it was like Booster Gold, Hawkman, Power Girl. I'm
trying to remember. Yeah, New 52 is so like in the back of my brain now.
Gosh, so back there. But anyways,
but Booster Gold series was the best part that came out of New 52, so I'm embarrassed.
I actually still like the New 52 Wonder Woman is some of my favorite Wonder Woman I've ever
New
read.
52 Batman is incredible. Like Scott Snyder.
Yeah, that too. A Court of Owls? Yeah. Come on, Troy. Be a little nicer. But
Court of Owls is good. I was expecting
Grant Morrison's Action Comic Superman, where he's in the t-shirt and jeans, is literally one of my favorite Superman runs of all time.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Good. Also good. Yes. Right. Stargirl. That's who I'm thinking of. Yeah. But for when they did, when they announced that Booster Gold was Canadian, they were at Fan Expo Toronto, and when they announced the title, I was like, yeah, what are they going to do? Like DC has no Canadian superheroes at all. This isn't like Marvel where like we get Wolverine and now everybody's with a healing factor.
Alpha Canadian. Flight. Come on, give Alpha Flight some.
We got Alpha Flight, Deadpool, Sabretooth. Like they're all coming in from Canada all of a sudden. And then, but DC still never had any. And all of a sudden it felt like at the panel when someone asked straight up, like, so you got Justice League International with no Canadian representation. It was almost like Jeff Johns just went, Booster Gold, he's Canadian now.
Well, there's encyclopedic knowledge. He just went through and was like, who's not doing anything? Booster's Canadian.
Booster. Yeah. Makes no sense. Though I think because I think he's supposed to play for like, he claimed he played for future NFL. But you know, this character too, I think James Gunn nailed it. The poster boy for imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
This one too has James Gunn written all over it. I hope we get a Ted Cord in this series as well.
Oh man.
And again, if they put Chris Pratt as Booster Gold, I will not complain. but at the same time, I'm trying to think of like, again too, like, God, I wish this was like the early 80s because Steve Martin would have made a great Booster Gold.
Oh man,
that's the thing is, it's like I feel like Chris Pratt is
it feels
too
obvious.
old now, and and now he's too obvious. Like he can kind of play that like charming but kind of a douchebag kind of guy.
Well, and also that's the whole gimmick when we first meet him in the first Guardians is he's like, I'm Star-Lord, and he's like, who? He's like, come on, man, I'm Like Booster Gold is gonna show up and do the same thing.
Same shtick. Yep, exactly. So you gotta, but maybe Batista can also do the voice of Skeets. And yes, that's his robot companion's name.
Oh God, Skeets is so great.
Oh God, I want to go watch Justice League now so I can see some Booster episodes.
Yes, right. So now I'm totally like this. I think this show is going to be one of the bigger sleeper hits.
Oh yeah.
That maybe people who don't really read comics or know about Maguire's run on Justice League, that Justice League International, where it's Booster, Batman, Guy Gardner, Blue Beetle, Fire and Ice, right?
It's
like,
a classic.
And who knows? They might bring in all those characters into this.
They did say. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
I was gonna say before they announced that they were doing this whole like, we're gonna get someone to run DC and do a whole new thing and all, and people were talking about like, well, now that he's done Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, what's he doing next? I like at the top of my list of things that I would have loved to see James Gunn do was a Justice League International movie, especially if they didn't know what they were doing with the big guns and they didn't know what the direction was. Like, just let him do a standalone Justice League International with all these characters and let him just do what James Gunn does. And I would love it if, like you said, this is starting to plant the seeds of like, maybe we get there eventually.
Right. And I'd be okay with that too. Even if they don't call them necessarily Justice League International.
Yeah.
But just something. I think that'd be all right. Bot Boy versus Nathan Fillion is Booster Gold. I think it again too.
That's another good one. That's a little, he might have aged out of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say in the early aughts, he would have been perfect.
Right, blonde up Dylan O'Brien. This is from Derek Hoover.
Okay, I can see that. Dylan O'Brien, though, he's at the top of my list for a Nightwing for sure.
Right,
I can see that.
Right, like, I'm still trying to think of like, wait, what? Craig here. All of us old people don't know any young actors. You're the one that said we should fan cast along the way there. This is on you.
None of it. We're not old. He says as he's live streaming from a baby's nursery. Thanks, dude.
Ooh.
Appreciate.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. We're not old. We're seasoned.
We passed this one by earlier, but Thunderhouse Design mentioned that Lee Pace would be a good Hal, and then you have John David Washington as John Stewart. That's the vibe, man.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I like that a lot.
Even Craig dropped some here. John Boyega and Oscar Isaac is great.
I think Craig is just naming people from things that he knows.
Oh man.
Maybe they can give us the space adventure we didn't get in episode 9.
I love, so with Booster Gold, I do want to say that I think the timing of this is right too, because if this is on the heels of Brave and the Bold, where it's like we've just introduced literally everyone and their grandmother, that Booster Gold is that guy that's like, hey guys, what about me? Like, it's going to be so much fun. Like, whatever they've now set up between the Lantern Show and Brave and the Bold and all of the high just stakes that are now
iconic characters too.
Oh yeah. And then this guy that's like, oh God, him again. Somebody get him out of here, please.
Yeah. It's gonna be so good, man. Like this was put together with so much like opportunity and inspiration, and like to a lot of people, like these announcements were like, oh, that I would not have expected that. But when you step back and let it sink in for a minute, you're like, let him cook. James Gunn has something. He's got a stew going.
Yeah, you got a stew going.
Also, back to Space Adventure. We're going back to space.
Oh man,
Supergirl. They're doing it based off the Tom King run, which is amazing. But what sucks is I was like, I haven't read this yet. I have the first issue, and I was like, okay, I'm going to wait and get the trade. And then work got in the way. So now I have to go, just like John, I got to go back to the comic store. Yeah. I need to go get the trade for this and read this, because Well, first it's done by my favorite dude, Tom King.
Yeah.
And it's Supergirl, another character who I actually really, really love and cherish as well. So, but again, this has me, the whole idea of her being marooned, and she's a little more jaded. She's grown up on Krypton, so she knows about Krypton. That's something that's always been brought up in the comics a lot as well, is the fact where she, it's funny, Clark kind of looks up to her for more knowledge on his Kryptonian heritage, because she's technically older than Clark is in a weird way. So, so this is always like, to me, I always want to like dive into more of Supergirl stuff. Considering I dropped off the CW show pretty hard after season 1.
Yeah,
it's solid through season 4, but it gets shaky once it's in its last couple seasons. I'll say that, but it's overall enjoyable.
Right,
but,
and I'm excited for this one too.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John. Hit it.
I was just saying I'm hyped.
Oh, he's hyped. I'm hyped too. I feel like this is going to be a good contrast if they're going to do the Blue Boy Scout version of Superman. Mm-hmm. Here you have the little more jaded, like, come on, Clark, you're better than all these people. Like, what are you doing? You're going to have that sort of polar opposite magnet that's going to now be introduced. Yeah, that now we've got Superman. Maybe he factors into Brave and the Bold and Lanterns, and we've kind of gotten to know this version of Clark Kent. And then here comes Supergirl, who has been marooned and living for, I think that, like the first 15 years of her life by herself. And it's going to totally rock his world, and it's going to make him rethink things, and it's going to make him challenge his moral structures. And like, that's what Superman does best too, where it's like, look, you are the big puffed up chest guy. I know that I can't hurt you with bullets and fists and everything, but let's talk about your morality. And that's where they always kind of like dig into Superman, and that's where they find his weaknesses. So I think knowing that this kind of leads into what closes out the Gods and Monsters chapter, I think we start to see the arc here they're building. Like, we're seeing how things kind of build up, and then where they're going to come crashing down.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I want to bring up this comment from Thunderhouse Design. The Supergirl story can also be a really good vehicle to introduce some weird DC space concepts and characters. This is where I was like, I really wish that Lobo was getting played by Jason Momoa, because if I don't get Lobo versus Superman, I will happily take Lobo versus Supergirl.
That would be fun for sure. Oh,
right.
Man.
I would
and
totally
the other thing that Gunn mentioned when he was talking about this one that got me excited was, and I couldn't tell if he was just describing what was in the book, or if he was talking about like, this is what the movie is going to be. But he mentioned that like, it's Supergirl and this other little girl who wants revenge and a dog. And I'm like, yo, are we finally going to get live action Crypto? Because please give me live action Crypto.
I would be totally cool with that too. I would love to see. I give us bring in Streaky the Super Cat too while we're at it.
I mean,
get them all in there. Beppo the Super Monkey.
James Gunn dropped Batmite's name like 3 times, so like, he's looking in that direction.
Well, you again too, like for Superman, Mr. Midsat Splitslick, right? Like, you know what?
Yeah,
that's who Batista could play as well.
Oh God, could you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Right? Like, why not? Why not? A Troy, Supergirl should bring in the Emerald Eye of Ekron and the Emerald Empress. Ooh. Right? Thunderhouse Design, Cosmo the horse. Yes. Right? Derek Hoover. Oh, don't count out Brad Garrett reprising Lobo. Right?
Always in our hearts.
Always in our hearts.
And John DiMaggio as Aquaman. Like that, I will always hear him going, righteous, like righteous, until the end of my days.
Outrageous.
Outrageous.
I love it. And Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
This to me was like Troy said, this was the obvious choice. I mean, to me, outside of this, or maybe even a Jonah Hex movie, this is probably the closest thing to like a very James Gunn choice.
He's your toxic Avenger. Like it's if you've got to work Swamp Thing in, it's got to be a James Gunn arc. Like,
yeah,
and the fact that this is going to close things out.
And again, it does what so many of the other things in this slate do, which is it sets up concepts and world building opportunities. I love that between this and Creature Commandos, he's coming like the thing
they're bookending it.
They're bookending it, but it's also like with Marvel, we were still in the time where like, oh, we kind of buy Spider-Man because it's explained as science. We kind of buy X-Men because it's explained as science. But when we got to Marvel, it was like, let's start with Iron Man because the science fiction is believable. Let's go to the Incredible Hulk because we know him and we understand the science is heightened but believable. And they had to kind of work up to like, how do we get the audience to believe in Thor? And then how do we get them to believe Thor exists in the same world as Iron Man and go from there to gradually bring people into these weirder, bigger things. But with this, he's just coming out the gate with like, here's something creepy. Here's some science fiction. Here's Game of Thrones on Paradise Island. Here's this here. Like, we don't have to teach people to buy into it anymore because they've seen. And I think the example he gave at some point was like, you've seen what it looks like when Rocket and Thor are hanging out. And it's like, oh yeah, this is one of the best parts of this movie. And I love that there's that aspect of it, but then there's also like with this, he's introducing the concept of the green. He's introducing, maybe they'll talk about the red, which could lead to like, oh, maybe in chapter 2 we'll get an Animal Man TV series, which is also written by Grant Morrison. So like, like you start to put together like, oh, I see where they could go from here.
Yeah, and he's part. Am I wrong? Swamp Thing was part of the Dark Avengers.
Justice League Dark.
JLA Dark.
Right?
Yeah.
Justice League Dark. Yeah.
Yeah. All I was thinking in my head
out of
was
New
Zatanna.
52. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking Zatanna.
But that makes sense. You got your gods, you got your monsters, and you got to have gods 100%. And monsters fighting alongside whatever the big threat's going to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this isn't, like he said, this isn't even all of chapter 1 yet. So I'm guessing that if this is building to something like some sort of Justice League or some sort of team up crossover thing or some sort of event, that's probably what he's not telling us. And
right.
Yeah, 7 Soldiers of Victory, but that's probably what we're not hearing because it's like it's worth it to start getting into these before we start putting together like, oh, is this what he's doing? And then, show us what it is.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this one just because he is he fits into DC so well, but he's also like so freaking weird.
Yeah.
So, and he's super powerful as well. So I want it.
Yeah.
Just give that one to me. And, yeah, I don't even. Then again, he'll be played by Batista. Everybody, actually, this is a movie too that I think if done, I think Ben Affleck might have fun with this one too. Though now I have my heart set on Green Lanterns.
Yeah,
yeah.
Right?
I just want him to do Space Cops. That's just how. Yeah,
that's it.
A crime thriller with superhero-y science fiction stuff in the mix. That sounds like it's literally right up his alley.
Right. Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, there we have it. That was our DC breakdown of the slate.
So I have one big question for the three of us here and for the chat as well. They left some room for error. They knew that things will change. Inevitably, we will have to shuffle some of these things around. There's going to be a rogue squadron here or there. What do we think gets moved and or canceled out of this slate that was announced?
Ooh.
That's a tough one. I feel like so many of these are hand-picked. Like it's not obvious stuff like if this was the MCU and we were looking at phase 1 and there was like an Ant-Man and the Wasp movie up there with everything else, and then they moved it to be what it eventually was for whatever reason, you could kind of see like, okay, well, that was something that they had to introduce anyway, because those are classic Avengers. You knew they were going to get to them at some point. There's stuff in here that even if you asked me like, John, what does 10 years of DC films look like, that I would not have even guessed that, you know, the Authority would be on here.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there's such precision, and the fact that they brought in a group of writers from film, TV, and comics to map out like, where is this story going? I feel like if there is shuffling that happens, it's going to be solely based on release date, or like some deal fell through where like an actor can't play that part anymore, and they are forced to do it because it feels so curated and purposeful that I don't know how you pick one of those to be like, oh, this one's out, you know?
Yeah, I'm actually with John on this one as well. These ones seem to me like they announced these ones because they were safe, which is why there's a bunch of other ones that are not announced, which are maybe up in the air, maybe don't have a place and don't have a plan. Where I feel like these ones, like Creature Commandos, which has already started, I feel like there's already some sort of ball rolling on the other ones, which is why these ones are safe to talk about.
Yeah.
And it also like leading with Creature Commandos makes me feel like they purposefully wanted to come out the gate with something that weird and that kind of like horror tinted, because that's going to like, they needed the monsters part to feel like it mattered. Like instead of just going, we're doing Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, we're doing an Amazon show where it's like all the stuff that on some level you kind of expect for them to hit on those heroes or those things connected to them, and then on the back end be like, oh, and we're doing Swamp Thing and Creature Commandos, and like where it's kind of like, okay, but when do we get to like, you know, more superhero stuff? But the fact that they came out the gate with Creature Commandos, it's like, we need you guys to understand that the monsters part is important, and then we're going to do all the rest of it too.
Then we'll give you the greatest hits.
Yeah. I'm actually with John. Yeah, I'm absolutely with John on that one. I think they're setting the tone with that, even though it's animated and everything else. I think that's where they want to go. That's their tone. And then they'll brighten us up with shows like, you know, Booster Gold and Superman. And and again, too, the Paradise Lost and Supergirl could also bring in more monsters.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Those, you know, and definitely Paradise Lost will bring in some gods.
Yeah, totally. That's the problem. And I see both of your viewpoints there, where it's like everything here is crucial, I know, to whatever the plan is and the arc that they've built out. But I do have concerns about all of the HBO Max shows. Like I feel like maybe one or two of those are either going to get pushed out or disappear completely. And I don't know which one it is. I just don't know.
Well, I think if one might go, it might be Booster Gold.
Yeah.
Something that they mentioned, and I don't know if I have the article pulled up or not, but they mentioned, and it was really weird, but I guess it checks out because they did talk about how I think the new Batman animated series is going to Netflix. They mentioned that they are allowed to sell and like put things on different networks. So while some of these might go to HBO Max because that's their in-house streaming service, don't be surprised to see stuff on Amazon Prime, stuff to be on Hulu, stuff to be on Netflix, because they've spun it as like that'll allow us to reach many, many different audiences. But I think it might just also be by nature of like, look, clearly like there's a lot happening on HBO Max, and we don't know that one thing will stay here for long, you know, periods of time. So we're kind of like making sure like let's put things where they might be safest. Right. And in that way, if Paradise Lost doesn't end up on Amazon Prime, like what are we doing? What are we doing here, really?
Right. The dress design. Supergirl brings in Mongol to set up Superman and Authority versus Warworld. I love that idea.
Yeah. And then we can get that scene where Jonathan Kent accidentally finds Superman's Warworld armor in his mom and dad's closet.
That's correct. And announcing it now, Batista is going to play Mongol. There it is.
Look, he's got a long career ahead of him.
not one actor isn't going to play more than one character. It was all bullshit. Batista's going to play everybody. It's going to be.
That's right.
He's going to be the Andy Serkis.
I was going to say, it's going to turn into like a serious version of like when Eddie Murphy plays everybody in one thing. The Legion of Doom. We finally get a cinematic Legion of Doom, and it's just CGI Batistas all around a table.
Oh my God. I hope they do that. I hope they do the swamp with the Legion of
skull
Doom
thing.
hideout. Yeah. Oh, do it. You know what? We're already at 120. I think we've hit everything. John, any final thoughts?
You know what? Since I have the mic, I'm going to go ahead and throw down a big picture speculation. We've gotten emphasis on the Lanterns really being kind of like the first people to uncover the major, like, oh, I think something is going on. We know that we've got a show that stretches at least as far back as, Paradise Island before Wonder Woman was born. And we know we've got Booster Gold coming from the future. Something in me, and then we know that they had some comments about Superman where they were going to say, he is kindness in a world that thinks kindness is old fashioned. And I love that they hit on that, because it speaks to a version of Superman that I love. Like, that's what made me fall in love with that character in the first place. But also, you don't say that just to differentiate, like it's different from the other version. You say that because it matters. So like my brain is starting to think like, what is this overarching threat to this universe that they're all connected to? And maybe it has something to do with the ideas of like fear and anxiety, because then you see how that could involve Green Lanterns and yellow energy or parallax. You see how that,
Sinestro
could make the world more, cynical. And that's something that Superman has to confront. And he's worried about, am I doing a good job? And then you have Supergirl who might end up confronting him, like you were talking about, saying like, how is this, like, why are you not thinking the way that I think? And it just, and then you've got the horror aspects of it and how that could play with like fear and that kind of. So I don't, by no means am I saying like, I know what the story is, but I feel like something in that sort of like, let's deal with what it means to be a hero in a world that is feeling a lot of fear and anxiety. And does that come from some sort of like source of like a thing in the DC universe that they can confront and deal with?
That's a good take. Plus, it also got me kind of excited about the idea of a bad apple in the Green Lantern Corps named Sinestro, and what he might be hiding as well to be part of that. So that's where it got me thinking. I love that. Oh man, I'm going to read some Green Lantern today.
That's the thing. The thing that I love the most about this is that he teased all of these shows and all these movies with comic book artwork. He wasn't afraid to mention the writers and emphasize that he wants the creators and the writers to be as recognized and as important in this process as anybody else who's attached to it. And he spoke about things, and he brought up obscure characters and teams and things that are going to be a part of this in a way that more than anything made me, as somebody who like, this whole shelf is comic books. I make comic books. It made me say like, God, I want to go read some comic books right now. Like even stuff that I've read, I was like, I want to pull that out and just dive back in because I'm excited. And like, if that at all makes anybody else who heard this want to go and pick up a comic book and start building that hype and see, like, get a little taste of what is coming, like that's awesome.
Yeah, I love that too.
Or even, pointing people in the direction of like animated stuff and video games. Like, who is it? Steve Lawrence. You're super welcome for saying go check out Son of Batman. You are going to have a great time with it. So there's tons of stuff that even if it's not canon or any, like, you can still go watch it on HBO Max or wherever you might, be able to dig into it. Go pick up a comic. It's always worth it.
Yeah. And support your local comic shops for sure.
Yeah.
Troy, do you have any final thoughts?
I'm just tickled. Like the fact that we got this huge plan outlay, everything is there on the table for us. There's no untitled DC movie number 1, untitled DC movie number 2. Like the fact that there is a plan, it's embracing the source material. I am over the moon. My buddy Jason, I don't know if you're still watching, Jason, but I feel like this is the best chance that we have of Green Arrow appearing on a big screen and everybody loving it. Everybody's going to lose their shit when Green Arrow and Black Canary get married, and it's going to be a huge thing. And you know what? I'm calling it right now. Everybody, your mom, your grandmother, like, oh, that wedding was so beautiful.
Yes.
It's going to happen.
I want that.
It
I
is-
want to feel like I've got butterflies watching a rom-com as Green Arrow and Black Canary are like making wedding plans and beating up bad guys at the same time. Like, I want that so bad.
And again, too,
and
that's
it's
a great
all
way to
part of
bring in
this.
Wildcat. Yeah, bring in Wildcat that way. Like, there's at the JSA, there's so much you can do. But yeah, that's and then for me, I guess, yeah, I'm just, again, I like Troy. I am absolutely tickled by this. This was not what I expected. It gave me, I kept my expectations super low. I honestly thought he was just going to name drop a couple superheroes, and that was going to be the end of the day, right? Nothing big. What I got completely floored me when all of a sudden it was like, yeah, like I said, name dropping comic writers and artists and storylines and comic runs, and it was just, it had me just like, is this real? Because I feel like for so long, DC Comics especially seemed to be so ashamed of their source material.
Yeah.
They just didn't want to touch it.
Oh, it's so cheesy. Again, Green Arrow. It's a guy named Ollie, and all he does is dress up like Robin Hood and shoot arrows. Like, it's stupid.
Come on, he's the Bernie Sanders of the bloody
He is.
DC universe.
I'm once again asking you to please understand how cool Green Arrow is. Like,
Yes.
come on.
But
He
you're
is
right,
that
Ryan.
curmudgeon with the mittens.
They're not ashamed of this. They're like, okay, yeah, Batman has a bastard son with Talia al Ghul that we're gonna bring in the first movie. Like, oh, what?
What?
Yeah.
Yes. And they have
Yes.
to, and we get to see a total different Batman, because he's someone who's already figured out, like, oh, I've been a surrogate father. I got this nailed. You know?
Yeah.
But
I was
it's
trained by
something different.
assassins too. So what?
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
Oh, man. And the little
And
moments
you're
where
weak for not
hopefully you
killing him,
see,
Dad.
like, oh God, I'm imagining the first time Damian meets, Dick Grayson and Tim Drake, and he's just like giving him so much crap. It's gonna be great.
That's awesome. I can't wait. But I am so excited. The next couple of years of just the buildup and the hype and the news that's coming out and the announcements for casting directors, it's going to be so much fun. And I'll make sure that you guys are involved in these episodes as we get more and more updates and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah,
and then Lexi will be able to join us as well.
Yeah.
She's still moving,
Hey, Lexi.
but it's all good. But you know what? Thank you guys for being here. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for everyone who watched on the replay. It's a longer episode than usual, so thank you for sticking around. And I will actually even be back tomorrow. I want to get more input from the chat tomorrow night. It's just going to be me, the chat, and I'm going to open some superpowers on the side, and we get to all do that together. So thank you everybody else for being here. Thank you everyone. Thank you, and thank you to Anxiety for bringing people in as well. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you guys, and have a good night, Gotham.
See you later.